I'm Danny. He is my husband. I'm French Canadian, and I have question about women. Why they, when they are married, they don't have their heirs?
Wig?
Wig. Why they have wig?
Modesty, which is a very important value. Modesty means having a clear distinction between your private life and your public life. Because we have both. We have an inner life and we have an outer life. Social life, private life. Too much, way too much in our society today, in America, way too much is public. We're really, I don't know if the word is, we're really good at it. We are so social, like too much. Everything is social. Everything is online. Everything is exposed. Everything is open. And our personal lives are so poor. They're so little. Now, that doesn't mean keeping secrets. It means keeping what's private, private. So if we can add more to our private lives, instead of making everything public, it would enrich us in a very deep way. So modesty, even the fact Adam and Eve got dressed after they ate from the tree of knowledge, that was because they became wiser, not shameful. When they ate from a tree of knowledge, they gained knowledge. And they realized that not everything is public, not everything is meant to be on display. You got to create your own inner world, your inner life, which is private. And that's why we get dressed. That's why we're modest. Because some things don't belong in the public arena. When a woman gets married, she adds to her modesty by including her hair. Her hair is also private. It's no longer on display. So, since ancient times, married women covered their hair. And it wasn't only Jews, it was universal. They wore a bonnet, they wore a kerchief, something, but they covered their hair. In modern times, the most convenient way to cover your hair is with a wig. If the wig happens to look better than your hair, bonus. If you're going gray and you don't want to be gray. So one of the things you'll notice is that there are no old women in this community. Men are all gray, but you won't find a single gray woman here because the wigs are great. Now, the fact that the wig looks good is a benefit. We're not trying to not look good. Beauty is not something you hide. Beauty is meant to be in the eyes of the beholder. So you don't hide beauty, you hide what is private. Beauty is not private. It can't be beautiful in privacy. When nobody's looking, you're beautiful. No, if nobody sees you, beauty loses all of its meaning. So we're not trying to not be beautiful or attractive. We're just trying to distinguish between what is meant to be public and what is meant to be private.
Is that why you have a hat? Because you have a wife? You married? Yeah.
No. No, for men it's a completely different thing. A man's hair is not private. It's not sensual. If it were sensual, maybe it should be kept private, because sensual is not for display. But a man's hair is not sensual. Could be good looking, but the reason we cover the reason we wear a hat is to cover our head, not our hair. Different. Covering your head means recognizing that there is something above you. You're not the top of the heap. So it reminds you that there's a God who's watching, who's looking, who's above you. So men cover their head, women cover their hair. It's a little different. Different purpose, different function. So the result is that your private life, meaning your family life, is enriched. And that's part of what people are fascinated by, and it goes to your question also about the essence of a community. The essence of a community is families whose internal life, family life, is strong and healthy, and a bunch of people with healthy families get together, you have a strong community. So there's no way of, artificial way, of creating community. You got to create families. Healthy families, the more there are of them, the better the community. So I think in today's world, we're suffering from a poverty in our private lives, and we are very rich in our public social life. It's imbalance. We need to move back to our internal lives. So seeing a family walking down the street, the children, the young, the old together, there's something about that says this is healthy, this is good. Now, and more specifically, what makes a healthy community is a healthy tradition. If you have a purpose, if you have an objective, and you share that purpose, that is the strongest, healthiest bond that creates community. If you just have a bunch of people trying to get along, it's not going to work. You have to share a higher purpose. If you're all there for the same purpose, you are bonded. And you don't need to do anything more to have a sense of community. In this community, we take it a step further. We not only share a common purpose, but our common purpose is to include the rest of the world. Which might sound like a contradiction. How can you create a community if you're opening yourself up to the rest of the world? Isn't the community isolated, specialized, different from everybody else? And there is that philosophy. The more insulated you are, the stronger your community. But it doesn't work. You become too tight and you start to suffocate each other. So the best, I think, the best bonding agent that creates community is to have a very clear purpose for your lives, and that purpose should be open to the world, not closed to the world. Then the world can become a community. Could even have peace on earth.
Okay, thank you. Actually, I have a question. And so in the Hasidic community here, men don't shake women's hands, and obviously being a tour guide of Airbnb experiences and so on, how did you explain why men don't shake women's hands?
That goes along with what we were saying before. Shaking hands used to be restricted for everybody. In the olden days, a man putting his hand out for a woman to shake was an insult. The woman had to initiate. If the woman offered her hand, then it was okay. But if a man, it was considered insulting. And even then, women would not shake hands with men unless they were wearing gloves. In the Asian world, you never shake hands. You bow. Because shaking hands in a friendly manner. You're not arm wrestling. If you're shaking hands, it's a physical gesture of affection. Or it used to be. It was meant to be. But it changed. It became a sign of nonviolence. So people shook hands just to show that they're not violent. Like, I got no weapon here. That's why men shook hands with each other, just to show nonviolence. But for men and women to shake hands is still a little affectionate. See, a perfect example of how we can't fool Mother Nature. Today everybody says, shaking hands is nothing. It doesn't mean anything. It's not personal. Certainly not intimate. Right? A man shakes a woman's hand just to be polite, respectful, and he holds her hand 2 seconds longer than necessary. All of a sudden, she's very uncomfortable. Like, let go of my hand, you pervert. Like, well, what? I'm just shaking your hand. You see, there is something intimate about it. And there should be. It should mean something personal. So if it's personal, then it should not be between a man and a woman unless you intend to get personal. So again, it's a sign of how we took things from the private domain and added it to the public domain. Now we need to reverse it, take it back. So the way society is going, shaking hands is not personal. A hug, and it's just friendly. A kiss is just hello. I mean, is anything still intimate? Everything can be just fun. And it's only intimate if you intend to be intimate. Okay, so now you have a man and a woman. They're doing whatever they're doing. She intends to be intimate. He doesn't. He intends to be intimate. She's not thinking intimate. There's going to be trouble here. The misunderstanding and the confusion and the... So the whole Me Too business, I think it's misunderstood. This is not a war of men against women. The problem is not that men don't respect women. The real problem is that back in the 60s, men and women, both together, decided that intimacy should be less complicated. Free love. Everybody agreed to it. It wasn't men forcing themselves on women. Men and women agreed that it should be free. Free of what? Free of commitment, free of entanglement, free of emotional connection. Just fun. Recreational. Now it's catching up to us. We're starting to realize it can't be. Intimate is intimate. You can't fool Mother Nature. So I had this really great personal experience. We have a program in Minnesota for women. From all over the world, Jewish women come to catch up on their Jewish knowledge. So back in the early 70s, there were the hippies who were so anti-establishment, nonconformists. They were not going to play the beauty game. They weren't going to follow, that. And so they neglected themselves on purpose. Anyway, there was one woman who had really gone too far. She had really neglected herself terribly. And I don't go into details, but nobody wanted to share a room with her. She asked to talk privately. So we went into this little room that I called my office. It was just big enough for 2 chairs and a little desk. And we sat down. She was sitting near the door, and she closed the door. So I said, no, leave the door open just a crack, you know. She said, why? I said, because a man and a woman should not be in a room alone together if there are no windows and the door is not open. It's too private. She started to sob uncontrollably. When she finally calmed down, she said, I thought I offended her. Like I was suspicious of her intentions or something, whatever. Anyway, when she finally calmed down, she said, this is the first time anyone has treated me like a woman. So, according to Jewish law, a man and a woman are not allowed to be in a private setting if they're not married to each other. That's not an unreasonable decree. That's simply recognizing Mother Nature. When you're together, it is intimate. Not because you might do something forbidden, but because privacy is part of intimacy. So if you're in a room together, that's intimate. Now, did you intend to be intimate? May you be intimate if you're not married to each other? So don't close the door, keep it. So here's the thing. If intimacy is all in my mind, like if I shake your hand and I'm trying to be intimate, then it's intimate. But if I shook your hands and I didn't want to be intimate, then it's not intimate. So it's all up to my feelings, my intentions, right? If it was just my intentions, she can close the door. No problem, because she was really. But God says, no, it's a man and a woman, and that's intimate. You're not responding to the intimacy? Well, maybe you're dull. Maybe you're just not as sensitive as you should be. But this is an intimate event by its very nature. So intimacy has its own reality. It does not depend on your intentions. So the problem with the Me Too thing, it's not that men don't respect women. I mean, they don't. But that's an old problem. The problem today is we don't respect intimacy. We, men and women, don't respect intimacy. Since the 60s. We've taken all the awe out of intimacy. And that's why there's this misunderstanding, abuse, confusion. So by not shaking hands, we're simply preserving the reality of intimacy. Just because we decided that handshaking is not intended to be intimate, doesn't mean it's not intimate. And the proof is, you hold your hand 2 seconds longer, and all of a sudden it's a little intimate. So.